I'm Allie with PotomacBeads.com, and today's tutorial is going to show you how to work with the 2-hold carrier bead along with our new EVA bead. You're going to be learning how to do a peyote strip along the middle, and then instead of needing to secure it somewhere on the carrier bead, we're going to use the EVA beads to trap the actual coating and covering in. So the first thing that we're going to do to start our Merola pendant is we are going to actually cover our carrier bead. So the carrier beads, you may have seen a bunch of different covers for them and different patterns and designs, and a lot of times the whole carrier bead is covered. We have such lovely colors of the carrier bead that I wanted to keep the carrier bead exposed a little bit. So the first thing we're going to do is make a 4 wide 11-0 Delica carrier cover. We're going to make this 4 wide 44 rows long, or 44 of the peyote stitches, and after doing so then we'll stitch it together and we will add the actual design to the top of the pendant. You're going to begin with a needle, and I'm using a size 10 beading needle, and I have 4 of my Delica beads on my 4 feet of my green wildfire 0.006 thread. Picking up a 5th bead, I'm coming back towards that starter thread, which I'm just holding on to, remember. And I'm going to pull that down so I have 2 beads sitting next to one another. If you want to, you can also do a stop bead if you don't want those beads kind of floating around. Next, I'm going to add 1 more 11-0 and sew into the first bead that was added on my project, placing 2 beads on top of one another. What this is going to do is create and start that peyote stitch. You can see now I have those groupings of 2. I have the 1, 2, 1, 2. If you're unsure of peyote stitch, again, you can watch another video on peyote stitch before actually starting to do this carrier bead cover. I'm going to come back then adding a bead at a time and making that 44 rows long. You're going to end up with 22 beads along the side here, which you're going to double into that 44 number. So I already have 4 rows done, and I'm going to start my 5th row. Every time you start out, that first row of your peyote stitch is actually 2 rows at once. You get twice the work in that first go round. Coming back and forth then, you're going to be adding 2 beads per row. Add a bead, sew through the bead sticking up, turn around and do the same thing. Adding a bead, and then sewing through the bead sticking up. Again, continuing this peyote stitch until you have 44 rows, or you can count 22 beads along the actual strip of the peyote. So again, we're going to keep going here till we get 44, and then we're going to work on showing you how to stitch that cover together. We will add our embellishments, and we're going to continue on then with the pendant and getting that beautiful, lovely design. Once you have your 44 rows created, it's time to seam up this strip of peyote, which is again going to cover that carrier bead. So you want to make sure when you are ending that you're ending almost like a puzzle piece, that you have the end here where there is a bead sticking out to the left and an empty bead to the right. The next row up, or the next line up, the bead is sticking out to the right and it's out through the left. What you're going to do is fold the peyote in on itself from one end to the other. Going from the right side here, I'm going to sew into the bottom left towards the top of the project. That thread will then connect the starting side and the ending side of the peyote. From here, rather than adding another bead, I'm going to go in and sew through now the bead on the right hand side. I'm then going to sew through the bead on the left next in line. And what that's going to do is stitch up that peyote. I have it opened here a little bit for you. It's going to stitch up that peyote nice and even so you don't see any gaps or any lines. So we just stitched up from right to left and left to right and back. Here at the end of that, I'm going to tie a little bit of a knot and just get that to stay in place. From here, we're actually going to decorate our carrier bead cover, which the carrier bead cover, when you do it 44 long, will fit perfectly around that carrier bead. Again, you can keep it at this point, you can string it on, but to kind of up the game a little bit, we're going to be adding some EVAs and a DiamonDuo to it. Coming out this side, right there where the knot is, I'm going to pick up one of the EVA beads, going through with my needle closest to the point end and coming out towards the bottom. What I'm going to do then is count down 3 rows along the side. So I have my bead coming out here, 1, 2, 3, and I'm going to sew from the outside towards the middle along that row of peyote. So I came down 3, and I'm going to sew into that area there. What that's going to do is lock that EVA bead right in place. From here then, I'm going to take my thread and needle and go to the opposite side, sewing along the peyote strip to the other side. When you add to the other side, then, and you're coming out the very end, which because of the way peyote is, it's going to sit up or down 1 row. So I'm out the very end here. So you can see I'm out here kind of right across from where my thread was coming through. This time I'm going to sew up through the EVA bead. And basically what I'm doing is locking this bead right along the outer edge. So I'm sewing up through the EVA. And when you come out the top then, you're going to count up 3 rows. Remember we counted down the other ones, 1, 2, 3. And we are going to sew into that bead towards the middle, locking that down into place. So from there, my EVA bead, my first one, is actually locked in place. And what I'm going to do now is going down through the peyote stitch. I don't want my thread exposed at all. I'm going to go down so I'm coming out kind of in between the base of the EVA bead. So I'm sewing down through the peyote on an angle. Once I get out one of the side beads here, I'm going to reverse the thread towards the middle. And when I'm 2 rows down from where my peyote stitch is coming out of along the side, I'm going to add my first hole of my DiamonDuo bead. So I still want to go down 1 more. And really what you're doing is just like sewing on a button. You're getting your needle and thread in place and in position. When I'm coming out there then, it's going to be time to add my DiamonDuo. So the DiamonDuos do have a side. They have a top and a bottom. I want to make sure that it's facing flat, and then I'm going through the correct side. I am between rows 1 and 2 here of my peyote stitch, and my needle's coming out. I'm sewing through that DiamonDuo. Gonna lock that in place there right below the EVA bead. And then I'm gonna sew into the peyote stitch between rows 3 and 4. So I'm coming out between 1 and 2. I'm adding my DiamonDuo, and then I'm sewing between rows 3 and 4 towards the middle. That's gonna lock that first hole of that DiamonDuo in place. Again, just like we did with the EVA bead, I'm then going to take this thread and needle and just kind of go along the peyote. We're embellishing the peyote basically. There's a lot of YouTube videos that I have on that. And I'm going to sew down through the peyote stitch, going down 2 rows of peyote till my needle and thread are coming out. And I'm going to get ready to get that needle and thread through the second hole of the DiamonDuo. And all I'm doing literally is sewing the DiamonDuo in place. Once I have that in there, I'm going to go in between rows 3 and 4 and out towards the other side. Now, my DiamonDuo is locked in place right below my EVA bead. From here then, I'm going to add my next EVA bead. And I'm coming out along that side angle, and I went on an angle. So I'm already in place to put on my next EVA bead, which is going to sit down recessed from the DiamonDuo. I'm going to go up through the EVA, and if you're not sure exactly which way your thread needs to go, you can simply put it next to your project and you'll know exactly which way to hold the EVA. Again, 3 up, 1, 2, 3, sewing through the side towards the middle of the Delica cover. I'm going to sew over towards the other side then, down on an angle, out near the base of the DiamonDuo, which is going to sit on the opposite side of this EVA. When I get to the other side, I'm going to make the EVA bead turn and sit straight up by sewing through the EVA from the bottom towards the top. Once I have that done, I'm going to lock that EVA into place, going 3 rows up, 1, 2, 3, and sew from the outside towards the inside. At this point now, my embellishment on my carrier wrap is completed. And I've got those beads kind of locked in place there that they're not going to move. And what I'm going to do is take my thread end that I have remaining here and my thread that I have coming out on the side of one of the EVA beads. And I'm going to sew this thread and needle the whole way back, kind of locking this in till I can basically get rid of it and tie the 2 thread ends together. What's going to happen then is you're going to have a point along your wrap where right here, kind of hiding behind the little EVA beads there, the knot is tied and you're not going to see the place where those 2 thread ends meet. So I'm going to take this needle and thread here, zigzag back along the peyote so you don't see any thread, and tie the 2 ends. After we tie those 2 ends together then, we'll go ahead and we'll get ready to add our EVAs and the rest of our beads. The cool thing as we add them is with the carrier cover, a lot of times you have the instance where it's actually going to kind of slip off or slide off. With this, it's not going to slip or slide off because we are locking it in place with the rest of our beads. Once you have the 2 thread ends back together, you're going to take your thread zap or your thread burner and you're going to burn off the ends of the thread here right along the side of the project. Because it's going to go behind the EVA bead, you can even keep it a little long and then ball up the thread on the side behind the project. Also, because I'm using the green thread and the Jade beads, they're going to match almost exactly and you won't even see the thread along the side of the carrier. Once you have that down, your carrier bead is done and finished, and it is ready then for some more of our little decor. So we have our bead in here and we have it locked in place right in the middle with our nice kind of vintagey Art Deco look, and we're going to be able to begin actually decorating the side. I have enough thread left on my needle that I can go in now and get ready to get started by adding some of my EVAs along the side. To do so, what I want to do is start out with one of my Delica beads, and I'm going to use this as a stop bead. It eventually will come off the project, just leaving me about an inch, inch and a half left after the beads, going through it twice. And now I'll get ready to add my thread and needle through. So I'm going to take my needle through my carrier bead after that nice stop bead is on. You're going to add a Delica, add one of your EVA beads so that you're coming through towards the point end, add 6 more Delicas along the top, and once you have those 6 Delicas on your needle, come back through the EVA bead towards the carrier bead, add an 11-0 and sew to the other side of the carrier. That's going to lock our first of our EVA beads right there along the corner and in place. I'm going to do the same thing along the bottom, kind of pushing that stop bead towards the back. So I'm going to put on my Delica, my EVA coming out towards the point, going in and decorating that point with my 6 Delicas, coming down through that same EVA bead. After I come down through that EVA, I'm going to add an 11 and again sew through my carrier. If you've got that stop bead kind of in the way, just push it a little bit to the back. So that's going to be my link right there, is the sides that's going to hold kind of everything in place. Now I'm going to add my extra ones of my DiamonDuo beads. And to add the extra of the DiamonDuos that are exposed along the outside and kind of create the point, you're going to add 111, DiamondDuo through the first hole so that it's sitting facing up. You want it to sit almost through the bottom there of the kite. And then we're going to add 2 more Delicas. So up into and through all 6 of those Delicas that sit above the EVA bead. So you're sewing through 3 and then 3 more. On the opposite side here, 2 Delicas get added. Again, I'm going to sew through another one of my DiamondDuos. This time I'm sewing through the right side of that kite, adding another Delica and sewing through my carrier bead. Once you pull this through, you want to make sure that your 2 DiamondDuos are sitting correctly, that they're both kind of sitting along the side here, and that the points are facing up, that you have that design or that faceted look pointing up. Along the side here, we're going to mimic it on the opposite side. 11-0 gets added on. Our little DiamondDuo gets added on. If you have a little bit of a blockage, most of the time you can go in and just kind of take your 11-0 needle and get that out of there. 2 more Delicas go on, and then we're just repeating from one side to the other. Go through all 6 of those top beads along the EVA, up through 3, down through 3. Coming down through those 3 then, add 2 more Delicas, 1 more of your DiamondDuo, going in through the bottom of the kite towards the right, towards the left, and then 1 more of our Delicas. And again, back through the carrier bead. Sitting this down then, you should get the effect of your DiamondDuos that kind of want to pop off to the side. They're going to be facing, so that way they are facing up, that the diamonds are facing towards the top. When you see it here, when we add our next step on and add our next EVAs, they're going to go actually towards the point, sitting in conjunction with the EVA beads. Coming out that Delica bead here, what we're going to do is we are going to add our extra EVA beads along the sides of the second hole of the Delica. What I want you to do is go through the 11-0 and the DiamondDuo that is on the opposite side of the carrier bead where your thread is coming out. On the side of the DiamondDuo, if you want to, you can actually add in more Delica beads, which are going to be about 4 of them. So I'll show you adding 4 of those Delicas. And in my pendant, I actually kept them blank. I'm going to go from one hole of the DiamondDuo to the opposite hole in that same DiamondDuo, going from the bottom to the top hole. Those 4 Delica beads are just going to decorate the outside then of that DiamondDuo. When you're coming out the outside of the DiamondDuo, I want you to add 1 Delica, EVA bead on the left hand leg going up, so you're coming out the V. Just like we did along the side, we are going to be adding 6 of our Delica beads that I just spilled everywhere here, because 6 is going to be kind of our magic number to decorate the top. We're going to come down through the EVA just like we did on the opposite side when we were closer on the diamond. Add another Delica. We're going to sew through the top hole of the DiamondDuo on the opposite side. When you pull that, that's going to bring your EVA bead into place to sit right above the bead. I'm going to get my stop bead there, or my stopper thread just kind of out of the way so you can see it a little bit better. So there I have the EVA sitting right along the top of my DiamondDuo. Give a nice little tight pull, and that'll pull those DiamondDuos in towards the middle. On the outside of the DiamondDuo then, just to get that same pattern, add 4 Delicas, or you can keep it open and go right from the top hole to the bottom hole, through that second hole of the DiamondDuo, and then through again that carrier bead. Pulling that in then, that gets me the top of my pendant here, or the top of my earrings, where I have that nice pulling in effect of those DiamondDuo beads. From here I need to get from the basically one side of my carrier bead to the other side. At this point now, these carrier beads and these DiamonDuos actually hold, or the EVA bead and the carrier bead is held in place by these, and the cover actually won't slip off when you're looking at the different designs. So that's going to stay in there. So that's one cool advantage. To get to this other side of our pendant, I want you to go through the 11/0 Delica. We're coming out through that carrier. We're going to reinforce and go through the EVA and all 6 of those beads again, right along the top, down the other side. We're going to go through the EVA, through the Delica, and through the carrier bead to the opposite side. Here we are then at our starting point again to go in and decorate the outside of the DiamonDuos, going through the Delica that sits next to the DiamonDuo, coming out through that first hole of the DiamonDuo. Again, 4 of our Delicas are going to decorate the outer edge, and then we're going to sew through the DiamonDuo back in towards the project. When we have that sewn in back towards the project, then we're going to get ready to add our next of our EVA beads to kind of really capture it in and create that Art Deco style. I want to add a Delica up through, again, that left-hand side of the EVA bead up towards the point. 6 is the number for these. Down through the EVA on the opposite side. And then once I'm down through that EVA bead, add 1 more Delica, link into the second hole of the DiamonDuo across, and that's going to get that last of my EVA bead in place. I really want to kind of make sure this thread is pulled tightly and that those Delicas are almost sitting inside of the EVA beads, so that way I get that nice DiamonDuo effect where it's really facing and kind of pointing in. From here, 4 beads decorate the outer side of the DiamonDuo. And then I'm going to sew from that top hole to the bottom hole and in towards the project. And back through again, this is also the cool thing of the carrier, it has nice big holes, back through the carrier bead the whole way again. Give a nice little pull. And there you have your pendant or your earrings actually complete. The nice thing with this design and having those complete is that you can either do a ladder stitch for your top, where this is going to go into an actual cording or a pendant, or in my case here for my earrings, what I'm going to do is go in and get out of my package here one of my silver wire guards, and we're going to add a wire guard right along the top, so that way, or a wire protector along the top of our earrings, that way it'll sit really nicely on an ear wire. To do so, we're going to go back through that DiamonDuo up towards the top of the EVA bead. And when I'm going through the top towards the EVA, because of the green color, I'm actually skipping the beads, but you can go through the beads. I'm going to go through my Delica bead that sits next to the EVA. Go. So coming out here, I'm through the Delica bead. I'm going to go up through the EVA bead. And when I'm through the EVA bead then, I'm going to come out through my Delicas, and I'm going to go up through those first 3 Delicas, because remember we've been putting 6 on the outer edge of the actual EVA beads. When I come out the top there, it's going to create a little bit of a gap along the EVA. I want you to add an 11, go up through the wire guard, down through the wire guard, pinch the wire guard together. So actually pinch it. You can pinch it with pliers, but be careful if you're pinching with pliers because it can actually close some of those loops there. Back down through that Delica bead in the same way, so that way it's sitting vertical. And then through the 3 seed beads of the EVA that sit on the other side. And there you have your nice wire guard that sits at the top of the earring. That way when you're looking at this Merola pattern, you have that nice connection point that you can do for your ear wires. From here, it's time to go back to that starter thread here. Get that starter thread out of the way if it's kind of mixed in with anything. And I'm going to simply stitch my thread and needle back towards the starter side through the carrier bead where I need to. I'm kind of reinforcing, going along it. And then you're just going to look and see where you can take that thread and needle back, so that way you're adding and ending at the same spot. I'm now through the carrier bead again, and that's the cool thing again with that carrier bead is it has a nice big hole. This pendant is also reversible. If you do want to kind of change up the look a little bit, you can wear it on the back so you don't see that Art Deco-y look along the front. From here then again, I'm going to go up through my Delica bead on the side of my EVA bead, out the top, through those 6 beads again. So it's a lot of stitching, but it's a lot of repetitiveness. And a lot of times with components, many components when you're doing bead weaving are simply tying and almost like sewing on a button. Through the EVA bead, out through the Delica right after, and then at this point here, I'm going to take off my stop bead, that Delica bead. I'm going to tie those 2 thread ends together. So I have the thread on the starter thread, the thread that's still attached to my needle. I'm at the back of the pendant so you won't see it, and I'm simply going to tie those 2 threads together. Once I have those 2 threads tied together, it's time to burn off that extra thread. If you want to, you can glue that knot, but you can also, just like I'm doing, burn it down. From here, if you want to, again, that carrier bead cover is not going to fall off because it is stuck in between those EVA beads and the DiamonDuos. But if you want to and you want to add a tiny bit of glue, you can do so that way it stays directly in the middle of your design. You can also go in like I did on one of the other designs, and I was playing around with it, put the DiamonDuo closer. You can change up and really kind of have fun with the Art Deco-y look of this design and of this piece. Again, if you need any of the materials for the piece, you can go back to the beginning of the video. And from the beginning of the video, you can get kind of your list of materials. You're going to need 5 of the DiamonDuos per component, 6 of the EVA beads, 1 carrier bead, and then about 1 gram of 11O Delicas. And the Delicas that I'm using are the Duracoat Galvanized Silver. I have the EVAs in the Jet, the DiamonDuos in the Jade AB, as well as the carrier bead in the Jade as well. You can have fun then whether or not you want to do just kind of that simple ladder stitch, whether or not you want to add the wire guard, and you can even make a necklace of these connecting between each other with the carrier beads too as well. You can also make a bracelet adding the components together and have the components kind of touch in the middle and really go for it and have fun. I like the idea of using the carrier beads again here because you are locking that pattern and that design in place and having fun using them in a different method and a different version rather than just simply covering them with a Delica pattern stitch. Again, if you need any of these materials, you can go below the video and you can shop with us with the links there online for PotomacBeads.com. If you like this video, you can give a little thumbs up to the creative ideas that we have. It helps me to know what you as the viewer wants to see, what you want to see more content of, and what you enjoy watching, because that helps to formulate the new ideas and the new videos that we do. Again, this was a fun little play on the Art Deco version of the things that are being created with our new EVA beads, which we are happy to get out to you and check out if you do get a chance. Again, you can always subscribe to this YouTube channel. You'll get regular updates when we come out with new products like the EVA bead. You'll get new video content for when we do the Better Beater episodes, as well as when we do fun designs like this also. As always, thank you so much for watching, and have fun creating and working with the new EVA beads, making the Merola Pendant.